The piano music you just heard is your signal to settle into your seats and prepare for the start of our worship service. Before we begin, I call your attention to the Sunday handout, which contains many announcements. I would like to highlight just one, and that is the SGUUF film series, of which, yes, I am a member, will be showing High Noon on February 7th at 6:30 at the public library for free. I will be adding my wisdom in the beginning. And I ask that you please attend and that you please make certain that you read the announcements. I would like to remind everyone that if you should test positive for COVID, to please contact the church because we need to be caring of each other. Thank you.
Welcome and good morning to the San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching at home, hello people at home, we are so glad you are here. My name is John and my pronouns are he, him. I've been a long time associate of the Unitarian Church and been involved in Unitarian churches for a very long time, but this church just a much briefer time. But each Sunday I come here, I like it a little bit more. It's a really great place. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. If you would like to know more about us and to learn about upcoming events, please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. Comes out in email every week. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, whatever your gender identity or immigration status, please know that you are welcome here. Okay, let us greet this day in song, accompanied by Joe and Jackie on our opening hymn, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning." Please rise in body and spirit. The music is in the gray hymnal, and lyrics will be projected, number 153.
Hallelujah.
I would like to call us to worship with the words of May Sarton. She is, if you look her up online, a minor a minor Unitarian poet, but I believe that no poet is minor. This is called Poetry May Reach Across Earth to some middle zone and meet, brushing wings, flying together, then wheel and each slide down the wind alone back to his separate skin, his meager feather. They are also great lovers who, like birds, have spanned the earth and drunk in each other's words.
Let us now light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, with the words of our own Reverend Jamie. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith, for the promise of a new day, for the renewal of belonging, for the connection between and beyond all that is, all that was, and all that is yet to come. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul to greet this day. Okay, so now we'll do the affirmation. Our affirmation is an expression of our covenant with one another. Please read after me. The words will be projected. The doctrine of this church is love.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
Thus do we covenant with one another.
This we promise to do together.
And now it's time for our Wonder Box, and here comes Karina to help us with that, to share it with us.
Good morning. There are some littles in the back, and if they want to try and guess what's in the Wonder Box today, they can come forward for a second. This time it's not making any noise at all. We've had clunky rocks and blocks and bricks the last couple Sundays, but today nothing. So if there's no noise in here, what could that mean? Air? There's definitely some air in here. Marshmallows. I love that thought. I would love to see some marshmallows in the Wonder Box. What else is light and doesn't make any noise? Imaginary numbers. All right. Okay, we've definitely brought our wondering minds together today as we help each other learn and grow, and this is what's in the Wonder Box today. Can you see what that is? What does that make you think of? Memorial Day was the first thought. 4th of July. America. It's a symbol, right? A flag is a symbol of our country. And 2 years ago, I took this flag out of this box at a service like this one because Mr. Spoon had asked for our adults and children and families in our religious education program to read the words of the I Have a Dream speech in turn, parts of it. So he asked that we listen to that again today. So that's what our video is. We're going to listen to the words of Dr. King as read by folks from San Gabriel.
I Have a Dream, speech by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Paintings by Kadir Nelson.
I say to you today, my friends, that even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I have a dream today.
I have a dream that one day little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we'll be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, and of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true.
So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado.
Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California, but not only. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi.
From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing, in the words of the old Negro spiritual,
"Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty, we are free at last!"
And I just wanted to clarify, when I had put that flag in the box, what it meant for me was to show how that symbol means so many things to so many different people, and that we can claim that here together for what we want it to be. And it was so wonderful to have shared what Dr. King wanted that flag to mean. So I look forward to hearing all about Mr. Spoon's journey today and how he has to say to us. And I'll be in the back with some more activities if anybody would like to come join us back there.
Good morning, and thank you for being here to listen to me. I'm going to speak today on an African-American historiography from a primary source. Blame the title on my teachers, who very early in my academic career told me that the titles of my paper should neither be headlines or esoteric titles for poetry. I was honored to be in the first panel of Why Can't We Be Friends, and I was asked what I preferred to be called: Black, African-American, Negro, BIPOC, what? I chose and choose African-American in honor of my uncles who fought in World War II and greatly respect the military, for it was there that they told me it was the first time they were spoken of as African-American and took pride in that, as do I. Historiography is the writing or telling of history based on the critical examination of sources, the selection of particular details from the authentic materials in those sources, and the synthesis of those details into a narrative that stands the test of critical examination. I explain this to my students by asking them to consider the Civil War, one of the few armed conflicts in which the losing party not only got to write the history, but also imbue its culture, values, and mores upon the nation that defeated them. Our courthouse square in Georgetown is an example, with its large Confederate statue and statue of Dan Moody placed to ameliorate those who are uncomfortable with the statue of the Confederate statue. And Moody is praised for bringing the first successful proceedings against the Ku Klux Klan. But he should be commended for that, but he brought proceedings in behalf of white men. And he should also be remembered for trying to prohibit African Americans from voting in the Texas Democratic primary, arguing the party was like a private club and therefore could keep black voters out. This was in 1944. Now, ironically, among the statuary and plaques on the square, there is no mention of Georgetown resident Thomas Proctor Hughes, a staunch Unionist who was elected to represent Williamson County during the Convention of Secession and cast the first vote against seceding on February 1st, 1861. Also not there is that Williamson County voters agreed with Hughes when on February 28, 1868, they were one of 3 counties in the state of Texas to reject secession. Upon hearing the news that Texas was seceding indeed, his daughter Nancy says that he dropped his head on his chest and his whole being shook with emotions. That is part of the historiography, but it is not the history that you will see when you go down on the square. Now, members of our fellowship have been long in the forefront of efforts to remove the statue, and not too long ago, when I discovered that the Sons of the Confederacy were placing pavers honoring Confederate soldiers around the square, they answered my plea to purchase pavers to counter those, which would have borne the names of black civil rights soldiers, black people who had been killed in Williamson County, and slaves of Williamson County. We managed to stop that effort, and for the record, I will tell you that I attempted to purchase a paver for Ulysses S. Grant. Now, I have many friends who are educators, and as we enter Black History Month, which I call Find an Old Negro to Speak to Your Class Month, and I suspect it still is, except in states with Republican legislatures, I will be called upon again this year. I was first introduced about 15 years ago as a primary source, and I disagreed with my friend who made the introduction, saying I was too young to be referred to as such, and he told me that that horse had left the barn, headed south, and now was pretending to be a burro in Brazil. So I ceded the point and had many lively courses about historiography of Black history with high school and college students. What disturbed me most, however, was when working with the younger students, how frequently they would ask me, were all the white people that mean back then? I assured them that it was not the experience of my youth, but I also understood that the histories, the images, the articles, and pronouncements that they encounter during Black History Month would make elementary and middle school students feel that way. So when we talk, I present other material and pieces of my life to show them that there is a larger story, a historiography of the history, so to speak. And today, I am honored to present a bit of that historiography, and I will suggest ways that you may perform certain tasks that will enable you to view Black History Month in a different way. Now, our second hymn is Lift Every Voice and Sing. When I first moved down to Texas, I was photographing the Martin Luther King March, and I went into a church, and the church was attempting to sing, Lift Every Voice and Sing, in no way that I had ever really heard it sung before. And a lady walked up to me, and she hit the chords, and we just had a wonderful time singing the song in the back of the church, where I think everyone was following their different drummer, but we tried to stay to the song. She looked at me and she said, "You do know that we're the only two people here who know what this song is really about, right?" And I told her, "Hush, be nice." But I got her point. So to introduce this song, I would like to present something that was written by Reverend Aisha Ansano about this song in order to get us into the mood. It is a very, very powerful song, but often sung without context, and at times sung without a lot of intentionality. When you sing, lift every voice and sing, do you pay close attention to the words? It's easy on a Sunday morning to open the hymnal and sing along without necessarily processing what we're saying. What the words you will be saying really mean. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. We have come over a way with tears that have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. This song deserves to be sung with intention. It is a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country. And it is a song that should make us uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon, and comfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues, and that we have not come so far as we should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading the path through the blood of the slaughtered, without a deep, deep discomfort? So when we sing this song, will you join me in singing with intentionality? Will you join me in deep discontent that I will feel in singing those words? Discontent with the pain and horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words not only refer to a distant history, but also to what is happening now. Will you commit to singing with your own discomfort, and then will you tap into that discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until heaven and earth ring with the harmonies of liberty? Please stand.
Let our
Thank you, Spoon. It's very stirring the way that I heard that hymn, like for the first time.
When I became a member of San Gabriel those many years ago, I was attracted here by lovely ladies in matching T-shirts protesting the Williamson County Museum's Old South Ball on the courthouse on the square. They invited me here, and I was pleased to see so many people with whom I had been involved in social justice activities. It was the first congregation I had ever considered becoming a part of since 1961, when my older brother was named from the pulpit and chastised for protesting segregation in Baltimore. I thought that this might be a place where I would feel at home and not get kicked out of. So I decided to do a bit of self-serving research and learned that in 1958, the Secret Six were formed, all of whom had been involved in the abolitionist cause prior to their meeting and decision to fundraise for John Brown's rebellion. Of the six, two were Unitarian ministers, Theodore Parker and Thomas Whitworth Higginson. When Brown was arrested, Theodore Parker wrote a public letter defending Brown's actions and the right of slaves to kill their masters. In 1865, Unitarian Clara Barton, is she up there? Okay, and I didn't go with the picture just because I really like her signature and it's authenticated, because that looks like a signature that Clara Barton would have. After her work in the battlefield during the Civil War, she basically convinced Abraham Lincoln, who had given her the job of identifying the war dead, to also identify the colored war dead, which was not part of what she was supposed to do. She convinced him to do that. And in Clara Barton style, she convinced Lincoln, who told the general it had to be done, who told Clara Barton that it was his idea, and she responded, "I have considered diligently your suggestion in relation to the colored troops, and truly believe that with suitable agents, this search can be made nearly as successful as that for the white soldiers, and with such advice and suggestions as you might from time to time offer, or such direction as you would so be pleased to assume, I should be most happy to undertake it." I was very pleased to learn that Baltimore Unitarians, Enoch Pratt and George Peabody, in 1982 offered a gift of the Central Library, 4 branches with 2 additional ones to be constructed thereafter, and an endowment of $1,058,333 with the stipulation that it be for all, rich and poor, without distinction of race or color, who, when properly accredited, can take out the books if they will handle them carefully and return them. And in 1982, it became the first library in the South that was integrated and allowed blacks to take out books and also study therein. In 1905, the Niagara movement, the precursor to the NAACP, held its first meeting. I am researching the veracity of Unitarians attending, but upon reading that the first thing they did was adopt a constitution and bylaws, establish committees and subcommittees, and write a declaration of principles, I am fairly certain that UUs were involved in that process. Now, in Selma, many of us remember James Reeb, who was murdered. What I also found out, which I was very pleasantly surprised with, was that James Reeb was one of 20% of all of the Unitarian ministers in the country who answered Dr. Martin Luther King and went to Selma. I am now going to ask you to imagine some images that you will see this coming Black History Month, and I'm going to give you other images and things to think about. I want you first to think about the schools in Little Rock. We all know the images, you've seen them, the little black girl walking stoically, holding her books, and all of the angry, hateful white faces around her. And I ask you to consider Grace Lorch, an image not frequently shown when this is discussed. Grace Lorch was a teacher from Little Rock High School, and this photo is one of several of a series that show her leaving the school, following her students, confronting the angry mob and backing them off, and then sitting down, ending up in that shot. Now, it's not a photo I have seen during the Black History Month, historical canon, and I wonder if this is because it's presented, as the canon is presented, it's easy to get distance and say that although that vile crowd, I would never do anything like that. But I also wonder if this image had been there, if you would have thought, could I and would I have done what Grace Lorch did at that moment? Now I want you to consider the sit-ins at the Greensboro Woolworths. Now this is one of the things that my young students used to ask me about, and I told them that the sit-ins in Baltimore and in Delaware in the Delmarva area were always much more integrated than the ones that I think you're familiar with the news shots. And this is one of the rare ones because it shows a white college student who sat with those doing the sit-in. Now, I also, because in my research I discovered that there is this rumor of 4 white college girls who also joined in the sit-ins. I was skeptical, but I looked, and much to my delight, I discovered that not only did they exist, they have also been honored by their previously all-white women's college. Now, these are the type of images that I ask that you, when you see the images that you're familiar with, to consider and to look for. The internet is your friend sometimes. Just don't do any of your conspiracy stuff. Now, over the years, I have watched as the Children's Crusade of Birmingham has gotten less and less mention during Black History Month. Okay, in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, these brave young children revived the civil rights movement, which, after John Lewis's success in Georgia, had been wavering. On April 16th, after a letter from a Birmingham jail received notoriety, a circuit judge had issued an injunction against protests, picketing, demonstrating, and boycotting, providing the legal grounds for mass arrests. The adults were also told basically that your jobs, your livelihoods, and in some time your lives will depend on this. Now, 2,000 children aged 7 to 17 were trained in nonviolent protests, and on May 2nd, they left the 16th Street Baptist Church in groups, heading throughout the city to protest segregation. Now, one of the goals was to talk to the mayor of Birmingham, and on the first day of the protests, hundreds of children were arrested by Bull Connor. Now, on the second day are the images that I think you know: the dogs and the fire hoses and the kids being hauled off. Now, after those images made the news, for 3 more days, the children marched, 2,000, 1,000 of them who were arrested. On May 5th, adults joined them despite everything that they would have faced, and they marched to the Birmingham City Jail. They sang protest songs and continued their tactics of nonviolent demonstration. Finally, local officials agreed to meet with civil rights leaders, and on May 10th, an agreement had been reached. City leaders agreed to desegregate business and free all who had been jailed during the demonstration. Now, in September of 1963, in the Sunday school room where the students had been taught nonviolent techniques, a bomb was exploded and killed 4 little black girls, which the next time you remember that image or you think about that, I ask that you remember the Children's March. Now, when you see images of the March on Washington, I want you to please remember Bayard Rustin. He was a major organizer of the march, and for those of you who put together the services for the church, I want you to know that he put it together in 2 months. Now, just a few weeks before the march, Bayard Rustin had come under attack. He'd come under attack before for his work in the civil rights movement. He was an easy target. He was a socialist, a pacifist who refused to fight in World War II and went to prison for it, and a gay man who at that time of intense homophobia. Before, while working in the movement, he'd be attacked for being gay, and what he would do is recede into the background, but continue his work on civil rights. Now, before the march, Strom Thurmond decided that he could completely derail the march, and he went to the floor of the Senate and called Bayard Rustin a sex pervert and draft dodger, among other things. And Bayard Rustin went to those who were leading the march and said, I will step back because the march and the movement is more important than I am. Now, they almost took his offer, but Philip Randolph said no, and he gave a press conference defending Bayard Rustin and also let him speak at the march, although I do not think that you will see it in any of the images of the march that you will see. Now, I will end with the Olympic salute and introduce you to the white guy. His name is Peter Norman. He's an Australian. And when he was told what they were going to do, he actually recommended that famous shot saying, put them on different hands when you salute. But that was not enough. He went to an American swimmer and he asked for a small badge that read, Olympic Project for Human Rights, an organization set up a year previously opposed to racism in sport. But while Smith and Carlos are now the ones remembered as human rights pioneers, that badge was enough to effectively end Norman's career. Although coming in second at those Olympics, he shaved time off of his best. He returned home to Australia a pariah, and he never was invited to the Olympics again. As a matter of fact, Carlos invited him to join the American delegation to the Sydney Olympics because Australia would not invite him. Now, Peter Norman died in 2006. At his funeral, both Smith and Carlos gave the eulogy, and both men helped carry his coffin before it was lowered into the ground. For them, Norman was a hero, a lone soldier. He paid the price. That was Peter Norman's stand for human rights, not Peter Norman helping Tommy Smith and John Carlos out. He just happened to be a white guy, an Australian white guy, between two black guys in the victory stand believing in the same thing. Now please leave that picture up because that picture for me was my stress point during the entire civil rights movement. For those who are of an age to remember it, I want to tell you that every single white ally and I fought over that image. When my students asked me about it, I suggested to one who was doing a paper, I said, if you really want to know the historiography and not the history, to go to the newspapers, I told them to pick the 10 top circulating newspapers, and to read not only the headlines, but to read the editorials, and also to read the letters to the editor once that photo was taken. As we all on our journey to discover civil rights and to figure out what went on and what we can do, I encourage you to do the same thing. When you see the image, go to the newspapers of where you lived, and even if you weren't alive at the time, go to the newspapers on that day and see what the area in which you now live said and what was done. People have asked me the difference between history and historiography. That would be historiography. And I thank you for allowing me to speak, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Spoon. Very powerful and moving sermon. I'm sure I speak for all of us. But now on to more regular matters. We take an offering each week to sustain this place that we call home and to support the work of our fellowship. The offertory music by Joe and Jackie, graciously, is Come Sunday, written by Duke Ellington in 1942, which became a jazz standard. It was part of a suite entitled Black, Brown, and Beige, which challenged America to live up to the founding principles of freedom and equality for all. The offering will now be gratefully received, and we thank you.
Okay, I would like to thank all of you for being here. And I would like to thank John, and particularly Joe and Jackie, who played some very difficult music very, very well. Thank you. And to our tech team and to hospitality, I ask that you please remember to look at the list of announcements that you have. And I would now like to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the chalice inside of our hearts, which serves as a beacon of hope, emboldened by its blaze. We are reminded that our strength as prophetic and powerful people is found when we come together at San Gabriel, which is here in Georgetown to stay, no matter what may come our way. Now, please feel free to stay for coffee, conversation, Frank Dunaway, and debate after the service. Thank you. You ready? Oh, I'm sorry.